Welcome to Sparrow Pictures Podcast, where we focus on the stories and not the headlines.
Because we believe that stories can change the world.
Get ready because the show starts now.
One who conquers, I will grant him to sit with me on my throne, as I also conquered and sat down with my Father on his throne. He who is near, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches.
I am your host, Joy Thayer.
And I am the co-host, Matthew Thayer.
Welcome back to Sparrow Pictures. We are talking about end times theology. We're talking about end times eschatology.
And we got a little series going on.
We got a little series. We're trying to bring some clarity to some confusion that's going on. And, you know,
because a lot of people are talking about it.
There's a lot of people talking about all kinds of stuff in our world. And God is not the author of confusion. He is the bringer of peace.
Hey, he is the author of Revelation.
He's the author of Revelation.
Revelation means revealing, means to see, to illuminate. So, anyway.
You know what else?
What?
Somebody that has helped bring revelation and clarity is Mike Lindell.
Mike Lindell.
Because during 2020, there was a lot of confusion on what was going on during our elections and different things like that.
Yep.
And here was a man that was fearless, risked everything to bring the truth out to people, that's still been bringing the truth to people. And not only that, he has amazing products.
Yep, he does. And you can go to spiralpillow.com and you can try the products. Even if you've tried his products before, there's more to try. We're just got another shipment in with a bunch of other stuff that we haven't used before, and we're really excited about it, and it's supposed to be getting here any day. So,
right.
So go to spiralpillow.com and help support Mike, also help support the show. So,
and buy yourself some cool stuff.
Yeah, good stuff. Anyway, so we are, one of the things that people talk about but don't really understand, or some people don't even know about, is this whole idea of old covenant and new covenant.
No, because I think like you say the word covenant, and we talk about that in marriage, but we don't actually know what covenant means anymore.
No,
it's just one of those words that gets thrown around.
It
and
is.
that, you know, we hear the word equity more than we hear the word covenant. And that has more weight to it. So tell us first, what does covenant mean?
Okay, so a covenant is based off of basically it's an old, basically kind of legal agreement.
It is
like it's a contract, right? And so back in the olden days,
prior to us,
back when telephones were tethered to the wall, back way before that,
prior to telephones,
back when, let's see, right after the Tower of Babel. When Abraham, God made a covenant with Abraham, made an agreement with Abraham. So there's
not Abraham Lincoln,
right? There's several covenants.
Go further back.
There's several covenants in the Bible. There's the Edenic covenant. There's the Noahic covenant, which is when they came out of the ark, and God said, "Hey, here's my rainbow, and that's my promise that I'm not going to flood the earth anymore. Be fruitful, multiply." Kind of subdue the earth, and he reiterated the Edenic covenant. And then there's the Abrahamic covenant, which is like God said, I am going to take you and set you apart, and I'm going to make a special people out of you. And that was kind of crazy at the time, because at the time Abraham didn't have any kids, and he didn't have any kids until 25 years after that. So talk about faith. And so there was all of these different covenants. Well, the covenants weren't just an Israelite thing. They were actually an ancient people's thing. Right. And so
You'll
a lot
see
of
the Vikings
and there's some historians that will say that the ancient peoples actually got their structure from the covenants that God used because
with the Hebrew people.
Yeah. And so basically, there's 5 parts to a covenant. Okay, and this is all going to become relevant here in just a second.
You know what I love about that?
What?
5 is the number of grace.
It is. And so there's a preamble. Okay, so there's like a beginning, like a summary, like a hey, this is what this is about kind of deal.
Okay.
And so it's basically identifying the lordship of the great king. So like usually this has been after a great king conquers a country, and a lesser king now becomes his vassal, right? Or there's a lordship and somebody who's underneath of him, right? And so the great king stressing both his transcendence, so his greatness and his power, and then also his nearness and his presence. So basically, like, I'm great and I'm not very far away, so don't try any funny business, right? So that was basically the preamble. Then there's the historical prologue. So that's the portion. This is where it's like the king's previous relationship to this new vassal, and then also especially kind of emphasizing the blessings bestowed upon this new relationship. Then there's the what's called the ethical stipulations. So this is kind of like the guide to citizenship, right? So this is how you operate within this new arrangement, right? Then there's the sanctions. So this is where it's like, okay,
dude, sanctions is kind of a scary word now.
But this is where it's like, if you do things this way, you're going to get blessings.
Okay.
But if you do it this way,
it's sanctions.
It's going to be curses.
It's exactly what you're saying.
Right?
Okay. Perfect.
Then there's the succession arrangements, which is like, it deals with like the continuity of relationship, the continuity of government over future generations. So that's basically the 5 parts of an ancient covenant. Okay. And the reason why this is interesting for what we're talking about is because the book of Deuteronomy and the book of Hosea were written as these 5-part ancient covenants. Okay. So like the book of Deuteronomy can be broken up into 5 parts. So like, chapter 1 verses 1 through 5 can be the preamble, and the historical prologue is chapter 1, 6 through 449 is the historical prologue, and it can be broken up into those 5 parts. Okay. And each one of those 5 parts lines up with that, because there's the parts of Deuteronomy where it talks about the blessings and the curses and all that sort of stuff. Well, the reason why this is interesting, what we're talking about.
Don't most people skip over Deuteronomy when they read the Bible?
They do. A lot of people skip over that stuff.
Don't we think like the Bible is like Psalms and the Gospel?
Pretty much.
And like that's it.
That's it. And Proverbs.
But you're saying Deuteronomy is actually important,
right? No, reading this stuff is going to give you such a richer relationship with what we're talking about, because a lot of people kind of like dig in. It's like they get the Bible and they go to the last chapter of the book and they want to know how it ends, right? And so a lot of people will read Revelation and go, I don't know what this means. This is nuts. Like, this is like, we got dragons, we got seals, we got living creatures with 4 heads. Like, what the heck is going on? And they don't understand it because they haven't read the rest of the book yet. But if you read the rest of the book and you actually start kind of looking through the cross references, there's like parts of there's these margins in a lot of Bibles where it's like, it says, and you'll see inside the verses, there'll be like these little letters or numbers, and you can look at the little cross references and go, oh, this, and it'll take you to like somewhere else in the Bible, and you can kind of find these cross references, and you can, and it's a really kind of fun little map to kind of start kind of walking through, because you go, oh wow, like I didn't realize like how all this stuff is connected. So anyway, so Revelation makes a whole lot more sense if you understand some of these things. And this whole covenant thing was a big light bulb for me. Like I had grown up and never heard this until recently, and all of a sudden I read this and I was like, this is it. This is the key. This makes so much sense.
Where did you read it that made it make sense to you? So
this is a book. This is a book called Days of Vengeance. And this is a very thick book. It's about 600 pages. I like reading this kind of stuff on the toilet. It's kind of my fun read, right? So this, because I'm a nerd, and so, but it's really easy to read, and it's actually really fascinating. If you're into it at all, it's really, really, really good. But one of the things that he talked about in here was this covenant thing, and the covenant lawsuit. And the reason why this is important is because Revelation also. So Revelation is also written in a 5-part structure.
How did you figure that out?
So one of the things that you have to kind of also understand, because Revelation is about prophecy, right? Everybody says, well, Revelation is prophecy. And people kind of go, prophecy is being a psychic,
Yeah.
Right? It's like knowing the future. That's prophecy. Not always. Now,
and there's definitely a difference between a psychic and a prophet.
Right. But if you go back to the Old Testament, the prophets, okay, they would basically, I'm not saying that they did this literally, but it's like they would stand in the square, they would hold up the book of Deuteronomy and go, hey, look, you remember this? Because a lot of the things that you're doing right now are falling underneath the it's going to result in curses category. And so if you want to be blessed, this was the arrangement, this was the agreement that you made, and you need to be aware of your actions, right?
So in comes the sanctions.
Right. And so prophets were more concerned with ethical behavior. So the results of ethical behavior rather than telling the future, because the future was based on like, if you choose this path, this is what's going to happen. If you choose this path, this is what's going to happen. And then God would, give the prophets a little bit more insight or clarity on how that destruction would happen. And so, you would have Isaiah saying Babylon's coming or such, right? But it was mostly about them standing there as a lawyer going, hey, remember the agreement. Right.
So I need to pause there. This is really great and very interesting. And I know we're trying to keep these to a time period. But I think one of the fascinating things that prophets have done is held people accountable. Because you see that with Samuel and David. Right?
And that's exactly what Revelation is.
So I remember growing up, if you were held accountable and somebody said that you were sinning or you did something wrong and you had to have a consequence for your actions, then you would have people that say that you're just being religious. You have a religious spirit or you're judging me.
Well, they didn't like the prophets that much. They killed them a lot.
Because nobody enjoys being held accountable.
No.
I mean, even today, if you tell me I'm wrong, it's not fun.
Right.
But the thing is that God says that if we love him and we love his word, we want to be disciplined. And that's what accountability is.
Right.
It's the rule of law. And we're dealing with that right now in the United States, is that we're losing the rule of law because people don't want to hold other people accountable, or they don't know how to hold other people accountable. And so I think that that's a very significant thing that we just can't like blip over, is that they were trying to actually say,
right, they were trying to hold people accountable. And so let's just take it from the example of like Deuteronomy and a little bit of Leviticus was like this kind of like contract.
Also boring.
It was this contract. And so what they were doing was they were holding it up and they were saying, hey, this is what's going to happen. Okay, so Jesus comes along and Jesus, it says, you've killed all of the prophets. I mean, he even told parables where it's like, he leaves this vineyard, the owner leaves the vineyard, goes away, sends some servants to collect, from the guys that he left the vineyard with. His servants came back saying like, give us our portion for the master. And the guys that he left the vineyard with killed him.
Right.
And then he sent another one. And then he sent another one. Same thing happened. And then he's like, you know what? I'll send my son. They weren't going to kill my son. He sends his son. They killed him. Well, what happens at the end of that parable? The master kind of comes and levels the place. I mean, it's like that was the last straw. And so Jesus is standing there going in Matthew 24, and they're rejecting him.
Right.
And he's going, you don't know what you just did.
Yeah.
Right? It was like, this is it.
Yeah.
And so
and he uses the stories
and he
to warn people.
And he prophesied over the destruction of Jerusalem. And what Revelation is the closing out of the old covenant, the pouring out of those judgments in their completion. Because again, Jesus said, I came to fulfill both the law and the prophet, to fulfill. It is finished. The old covenant is Dunskies. Like that's what he was bringing about. And the new kingdom, the new covenant was being established. And and so Revelation is not a book about the future. It's a book about our relationship with our King.
Yeah. Right?
It's about our relationship in covenant with our King. And 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 so that's what's really exciting about it, is that it starts making a lot more sense, even when we go into when we start, and we're gonna continue this conversation in the next episode, where we're actually gonna start talking about some of the imagery in Revelation. Yeah. One of people's favorites, which is the scroll with the 7 seals.
Yeah, we'll get there.
And what that all means and how it relates to covenant. Right. But we're not going to get there right now. We're going to tease you.
And we're actually going to continue on this conversation, because there's so much more to unpack in what we're talking about right now, and how Jesus fulfilled that, and what was going on in time, and the war in the spirit realm and everything. But what I also find fascinating is one of our daughter's name is Seraphim. And Seraphim is the highest ranking of angels, and they are in the throne room of God. And for all of eternity, they are singing, "Holy, holy, holy are you." And the interesting thing about that is there's no end to his glory. There is no end to the fullness of his train. There is no end to his holiness.
And that's what it says about the kingdom of heaven. Yeah. It says several times, God says, "My glory will extend throughout the earth." Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I currently don't see God's glory spread all over the earth. No. And I'm a student of history, and I can't find anywhere in there that it's happened. No. So therefore, we're still in this thing. And when you get a better understanding of what this all means, it actually gives you hope and courage, because you're like, oh, we're with the big king.
Well, yeah, we're kicking devil booty.
Right. So how do we do this thing? Like, it's all about, now we got to learn the rules of this new kingdom.
And we have nothing to fear.
We got nothing to fear.
As dark and as scary and as frustrating as things look right now, we actually are serving the King of Kings, Lord of Lords. He already won, and we are his partners. And the devil is the one trapped in time. We even get to, if it's our moment to go to heaven, we get to be with Jesus forever and all eternity. And we are joint heirs in Christ. So we thank you so much for hanging out with us during this time. We're going to come back, and we're going to talk about more
stuff. And don't forget to go to spiritpillow.com and check out all of Mike's stuff. We've talked about it a lot. Love his stuff. We're getting the bed. We're going to try out the mattress. Super excited about that, because I'm 45 years old and my back needs some love. And so we're excited about that. We're going to let you know how it is. Yeah. If we end up waking up, because who knows? It might just put us into a deep comatose. So
it'll be great.
All right. We'll see you next time.
We'll be podcasting from bed. God bless.
Bye. So our bed is here. We're excited about this. We've been waiting for a couple of months. So our backs hopefully are going to love this. It does come with instructions. So place the mattress on your foundation, platform, bed, or other supportive surface. And then cut the bag open with the scissors. Step back and watch your mattress begin to unroll. Yeah. So good.
I love it.
And we're going to let you know what we think in the morning.
Fresh my pillows, fresh bed.
How did you sleep?
That was the best night's sleep I've ever had.
Wow. Yeah. That was definitely,
amazing.
The best mattress I've ever had.
We should do it again tonight.
Really?
Yeah.
Coffee's not bad either.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.